Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Age of Awæcnian. Age of Awæcnian. I just feel like singing
that
that.
music to continue. I was like so
Yeah,
disappointed. It's like, I think we need an intro song right now because we get that little bit and it's like, oh, now it's quiet. I want something
yeah,
else,
yeah.
a little bit more, please.
And I feel the vibes like backstage. Flea and I like bopping along, and then when I do the little intro, I'm like, I feel like singing it now. So welcome back. I am Marie, and this is the beautiful Felicia. And it's been a little while, hasn't it, Flea, since you and I have jumped on this beautiful thread. We've had some amazing guests, and it was like, oh, it's time. It's time for us to come back after illness, after amazing summit things and lots of shifts. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it has been a moment. I think we worked out that it's been over a month since we've been on just us, and I was like, oh, that's right, because we had all the prep stuff and we were doing so many interviews beforehand. It's like, what were we actually doing again? Like, I've forgotten what what is the purpose and point of this show. And so I guess for me, it's like, yeah, I really want to get back into this because it is the beauty of the story, but it's also the way in which we connect. So a lot of what we do is this beautiful connection piece of, just coming together and just sharing what is actually alive and happening. And like our last guest last week, both of them, coming in sick, you were sick yourself. And it was like, oh, okay, this illness that is presenting is popping up everywhere. And so many people in different places are like, oh yeah, I've just had this really bad cough, or I've just had this tummy issue and these tummy bugs and these sicknesses that are being presenting. So I guess that's what's been in the reality for the last month. This plague, or what I've been calling is the purge. This internal like need to just get rid of those last elements that are holding you back. And like we both feel this in Awæcnian Academy and like the growth and the expansion. It's like, yes, this is fantastic. It's like, but why are we not there yet? But why? This it's the same type of thing within our bodies, isn't it? It's like, oh, why am I sick again? Why? Why am I still doing this? And
Yeah.
one of the cards that was pulled before we jumped on here was this movement in choices and decisions. And I think that this is something that we really need to talk about more today. How do our choices make the change that we are actually seeking? How are we pondering, that actual progression? Like, are we looking to those consequences and to I guess, the effects of the journey of getting to where we're actually wanting to go? Like, both of us are on this soul mission, this soul-led mission to change education, to shift the paradigm and to create a new form of leaders and global connection where we're in support and harmony together. It's like, this is a big deal. And my dog's about to bark at nothing. So, these movements and choices and decisions, like, how do we trust them?
Mm, yeah. It's beautiful that your card resonated with my card that I pulled earlier. And I think about movement and the speed that we can go to, and sometimes the slowing down and the noticing. And so whether you think that's a rabbit or a hare, you know, they are animals that move very quickly. They're very alert. They feel the vibration of the earth. And when they're in pause and stillness, they're deeply listening. And as you were saying, that contemplation piece, when I reflect, on what you just shared with movement and asking why and going within and then taking action and these baby steps. We've been talking a lot about baby steps the last few months of like
Mm.
just being ourselves, taking the baby steps, taking the action, sitting back and taking the time to reflect. This card came up earlier when we were doing cards. Take that time to reflect, to go within and, you know, thinking about the direction that we're going with the mission, the baby steps, but also we've planted a lot of seeds along the way, and I think about we're still teachers, there's still that part of our identity, but there's a bigger part of us that's shifted into our leadership in leading everyday
Mm.
leaders to change this paradigm of education, of how we teach, learn, grow in community that is embodied. And it's not just about the teachers teaching in a school. We are parents, we are aunties and uncles, we are business colleagues. We are so connected. And so like this piece around like taking action, being yourself, showing up for yourself, sharing your voice, um, and just being authentically you, there are seeds being planted in the people you connect
Mm.
with, in the ideas you're planting, in the footsteps you take. And like this piece around movement, seeing your seeds grow, like see your seeds grow. Like I was looking at our business information. We're pretty much almost, we've had our business in our ABN for over a year now, but officially we're coming up to our year in our business registration. Like, and we've done a lot in a year that I know we're really proud of. And we've planted a lot of seeds along the way. And I think about, Awæcnian Academy also receiving a beautiful award. We just received the Silver Award for Emerging Business of the Year with Beam Awards. And like the steps to connect in other events and the things and the mission that we're doing, being able to write all the things down that I've been doing, that Flea and I have been doing, the impact that we're making, and like to even nominate, to even be considered was
Mm.
a beautiful process of manifestation and planting seeds. Even to be considered a finalist, there were like over 500 entrants that judges were looking at the applications. And the fact that we were brave enough to like put something down and out there and be selected, I'm like, these are the seeds. And to win this beautiful award as our first award, it was such an honor to accept that on our behalf. And it was a lot of seed planting along the way. And I feel like, some people don't realize how much action, how much contemplation, um, and calling in the manifestations to get to that point, to be seen by others as well as part of visibility, a part of showing up for ourselves, a part of sharing our mission globally and locally. Like these are the baby steps, the movements that I've been called to action and take, to take on board, to go, well, if people want to see what we're doing, how can I action that? How can I, show up
Mm.
and use my gifts to, get people to go, well, look what Flea's doing. Look what these speakers are doing here. Look what we're doing in community. And this is part of that process of growth and movement. And I was talking to someone earlier about magnetism, and people are now like, hey, what are you doing? I want to work with you. And I'm like, not even doing anything. I'm just in these spaces and people are just talking to me and I'm just telling them my story. They're like, I want to work with you.
Mm.
How does that happen? So I thought that was really cool in reflecting on the movements and the seeds and the baby steps, because we had big contemplations last night in the car, didn't we, Flea, when we were networking? It's like, why are we doing it? Is there a better way? How else, just putting it out there, and then we find ways to just connect and stretch our boundaries and whatnot.
Mm. I love that. But yes, we always have these lovely big contemplation modes. It's like, well, how do you define something that doesn't exist? Like, in reality, a lot of what most of us are trying to create right now is not in existence. And, there's a lot of fear behind doing something like what we're doing, this great big venture, that there isn't models to be guided by. There isn't programs and structures for advertising and marketing because it doesn't exist yet. And from what we know in history is like people that speak up and do things outside the norm are ridiculed, or they're considered crazy, or they're, thrown out, they're stoned, they're, crucified, basically. Like you think of anyone that has tried to make a difference within society on a broad scale. And, it is terrifying to trust that, to go, actually, no, what we are doing is important. And yes, there isn't a structure in place right now, but we're working through that. It's like, how beautiful will it be when it actually does succeed? When, we can come to a place where we're teaching by human design, and where people understand themselves at their core levels, that their unions and their relationships are so in depth and so impactful that all we can do is celebrate one another. And we're privy to be in other spaces where we get to talk about these type of situations and circumstances. It's like, well, I'm just seeking love. I just really want to be seen, felt, and heard for who I am. And like, this is a question that every single person I know puts to themselves. Like, you hear it in multiple different expressions, like the language may change, but it's still the same thing. I just want to be loved for me. And it's like, what part of you isn't being loved? Are we actually even aware of that part? And like, that's part of that craziness that we're instilling here, is that we actually need to understand that part there to be able to step into our greatness, to feel, to fully embody the path of our missions, to be in this spiritual awareness and awakening, like to actually know ourselves to that core level. You have to be able to answer that question, because if we can't, how are we expecting other people to go, oh yeah, I'm going to love that part of you? It's like, what part? It's missing from me because I don't even know it. Like, that's the question we are asking ourselves, is what, how can you love my soul? That all essence of me, no matter what mistake I make, no matter what choice or decision happens, can you love me unconditionally? And for so many people, that's a no. Like, if you sit and you think about your relationship, it's like, oh yeah, I'll love you if you do this. There's your condition. So you don't love them. You love the condition and the circumstance that's with them. Oh, I can accept you as long as you do A, B, C, D. It's like, so you can't accept all of me. If I want to be a slob for a month, can you accept that? Like, these are that true soul connection that we need. But until we can actually sit there and go, no, this is all of me. I live all of me, no matter whether I'm here in this relationship, in my family, in my friendships, you will get all of me. And it's a really hard task to go, this is how we actually need to teach. We need to teach from a young level to actually maintain and identify that spark. And I know from my early childhood background training, like, it's there. You can sit there and you can see a kid in their passion and go, oh, like, I had a beautiful little 3-year-old boy in one of my kindy classes that just loved pretending to cut hair. The minute you'd sit down on those tiny little chairs, he'd be like, and we do this, and we snip, snip, snip. And it's like, his passion, his that styling mindset is present at such an early age. Yet it's like, oh, boys can't be hairdressers, or that's not a good enough profession. It doesn't earn enough money. These are the societal things that stop us from following those passions. The minute somebody says, oh no, you're not in the right circumstance, or oh no, it's not good enough for you, or you're a boy, or you're a girl, or any of these labels that are somehow associated with a negative connotation, that destroys that part of that soul. And we're trying to re-find it. It's like, well, how do you re-find a part of yourself you lost in childhood? Well, we teach them from the beginning that it actually doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, it's what you think about it. It's like, yes, somebody may come up and go, oh, you're a boy that wants to be a hairdresser and wear dresses. Who cares? He's not making you do it. He's, it's his passion, and if that gives him his creative spark, then that's what he needs, and that's what the clients that he's meant to be there for are going to need, because they're going to need that energy and that vibrancy and that love that's going to come from that place of knowing yourself. And I don't say this like, I hate the labeling and the excuses of like, oh, this and that. It's like, no, if you love it, it's fine. You shouldn't have to push your label on anybody else. It's like, I can say, oh, I'm a teacher, therefore I can teach everyone. Well, that's a load of bullshit, isn't it? I can't teach everyone. I can only teach people that resonate with me. And they resonate with me because of my identity, because what they physically see and what they can physically feel. When you love what you teach, anybody wants to learn from you because they can feel that. And this is, that shift that we're trying to create is, well, how do we teach the teachers to teach that way? If most of them aren't in their passion, how do we build that passion? How do we generate that love of what we're doing so that it becomes inspiring for the next generation? It's a huge task, because how do you market and label that when it doesn't exist?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a lot of
we're doing
rewiring.
it. We will do it.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
a lot of relearning and rewiring and unschooling in this way, And it was interesting. We were talking yesterday about a music teacher I was talking to in the school that I was doing relief work at. And I was just, doing duty, and he just came up to me. He's like, how's it going with relief work? And I, just honestly said, it's good that I don't have the pressure of having to mark things and do this, and I can come and go. But also, the inconsistency of pay and working in different systems and doing this way, there is that piece of safety that my nervous system is rewiring and learning to come back into that it's all okay. I've got the safety here in my own body. Things are going to come and go. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, so what else are you doing while you're doing this and building a business?" And I just openly and honestly said, "Well, I've got a business partner. We have a global platform. We do summits, mind, body, spirit." And his eyes just lit up and was like, "I want to get into speaking. I've just done a whole, I'm really into the looking at the chakras, and I'm awakening. I've just gone through Kundalini process, and this is why I'm resigning." And it was like this magnetic experience of, I was just standing there, someone said hello, and then we're just chatting, and then it just, within like less than 2 minutes, talking about soul work and the work that I love doing. And I was saying to Flea in the car yesterday, I was like, I love it. I actually really love talking to people, love doing our podcast, love connecting. And we both have this deep love for connection, creativity. How do we bring that more into our lives? And we love talking to each other like this. And we look at other people in their structures, and we've tried structure, like that didn't flow. And then the universe is like, I'm not going to record that because it wasn't like our energy and our frequency.
Yeah,
And
it
so we just,
literally didn't happen. So we did record an episode that was so well thought out. It was so well structured. We had changing backgrounds. It was so in depth, but it wasn't us. And the entire thing looked like it had recorded. It still says that it's there, but there's nothing actually there. So, you have to actually stop and go, well, why? And, we were asking those questions beforehand. It's like, oh, that didn't really feel right. Do you really feel like that's it? And we knew within ourselves, and like one of the other cards that was there was the destiny card. And it's like, within yourself, because it becomes so easy that you stop thinking about it. And you just said there, it's like, these people just come up to me and they start talking. And the minute I start talking about the mind, body, and soul, wow. And people are so drawn to you for that. It's like, oh, yeah, this expansion. And it's like, actually, I'm safe to talk about this experience here because, like, she's talking about hers. And it's like, this is so unusual. I actually had something similar. Oh, that's what it means for me. And it's this in depth awakening that actually gets to happen. And for me, it actually happened this morning with one of our beautiful speakers, Fernando, through this cleansing ceremony. It's like, well, what is it that I do without even thinking about it? And our conversation in the car is like every single time we're together, we have this relational conversation about how we can communicate better in relationships. And it's like, I have done that pretty much every single day of my life in every single situation. It's like, oh, I have this conflict with this person, and I can do that and I can see that and explain it from both perspectives. So it's like you love connecting, whereas me, I love building the connection within the relationship. So the connection's already happened. Yeah. And that's what I'm actually building at this moment. So to build those relationships at home first. So how do we communicate at home that's then going to impact that child when they're going into the school and the ways in which they communicate with their peers? Because when we can model that in our relationships, and also we all want to be loved. Like that's literally how we started this conversation was I just want to be loved. So, this realization is like, why do we work every single time we come together? We work and we've been battling with this. It's like, well, what are we actually? Because we both have these deep passions. We both know it comes back to the kids somehow. What are we actually doing where we get lost? And that for me was my big aha moment. It's like, I get lost when I'm helping people in their relationships to see the things that are somewhat muddled by the miscommunications of life. And it's those miscommunications that we're all seeking because it's like, okay, well, I can see in your heart where you're coming from, but I can also see your beautiful partner and where he's coming from. And having that ability to be able to see both sides of the masculine and the feminine perspective, and that's that energy work that we also love to teach, is, when we come back into our human design and understand our energy, understand the way it flows, understand the gates and the connections and the things that are either, dormant or active in certain types of relationships. Like these things help us to better communicate and understand each other in relationships. And it all comes back to that self. So like when we say like, yes, we're teachers, we're educators, we are, but we're teaching how to be yourself. Because for both of us, that's the thing that you will get authenticity. It's like Marie will share her stories and it doesn't really matter where they come from, and that guidance and that intuition and that soul that comes from that. And, this deep contemplation and analytic mind that I have then gets infused in this understanding and learning. So like working with us, and this is why it's so powerful in these connections, and this is the essence that we get to build as we're growing, is this place where we all feel supported in our growth, in our understanding, in our development. Because in this journey, like we all want the same thing. We all want this beautiful 5D, 12D reality that is, far better than what we're currently living in, where we feel disconnected and anxious and diseased. This is the reality that we're currently sitting in, and we all know we want out of it. Like every single person on this planet knows they don't want to live this way. Yet we're all struggling and battling each other to be the first one to make the move or to make the difference. It's like, oh, I'm going to win. No, we're not doing it that way. We're doing this in union, in harmony, in balance that we were stating. It's like, come together. I can't support you in womb work the way Marie can, or, in building your voice and giving yourself power and the challenges and the connections. And, like that element is something I get to celebrate about her. And it's that celebration. And this is what women used to do so well, is we were always in celebration of each other. And somewhere along the lines, we got torn apart and it all became this, oh, well, we're fighting for what? If you have to fight for a man's attention, he's not worth it. Bloody hell. Like, are we not strong enough, wise enough, powerful enough that we can't work that one out? That if we have to compete for somebody's attention, it's not ours.
Mm.
And that's that standing your ground and going, I may be standing here sounding like a crazy moron to some people, but deep down at the heart, what I'm saying is truth, because we all want it. We all want the same thing, which is to live in harmony and celebration of each other. Because when we celebrate another, we get to feel good about ourselves. And like you said, that award, like, I have had people say, oh, that wasn't for you. Why is she saying it's for you? And I will admit, like, it does hurt. It's like, "Ah, actually, that's true. Should I be offended by that? Like, what's is there a point or a purpose? Is there some bitterness behind this?" Like trying to seek the negative in it. It's like, actually, I can just see it for what it is that we do build together. And in the background, sometimes you don't get noticed. How many people work in companies where you never hear their name? Like the clothes we wear, do you know who made your shirt? No. 9 times out of 10, we can't answer that. And yet, it's for some of us, it's our most prized possessions. What we wear is our identity and how we present ourselves, yet you don't even know where it came from. So, like when we're connecting deeper to ourselves, we're understanding that every single thing that is in our physical reality is an extension of us. And if we're going to treat our clothing and our manufacturers with such pity and poverty that they never get out of the slums they're in, then we're always going to be in those slums. And this is that manifestation energy is how many people are in lack mindset? How many people are in this, strive to survive mindset where it's like, I'm only just getting by. There's not enough in the world. Of course, there's enough in the world. We just need to understand ourselves and not be competing for jobs and positions and possessions that we actually don't want. I don't want to be the person that is continuously on the phone talking, chatting. I don't have the energy for that. So, if I want to be a solo business owner on my own, I have to do all of that. I have to do all of the networking. I have to do all of the creatives, all of the marketing, all of those things. If I'm not willing to see what isn't my expertise, then I'm never ever going to be able to complete that cycle of construction because I'm always doing the things I don't like. And 90% of businesses fail because they get to a point where they're worn out, they're burnt out, they're not succeeding because they're doing the things they don't like. But when we can actually go, hang on a sec, I'm creating a family. Does anybody love doing this? And some people love cleaning. It's very therapeutic and it's very nice. And what a beautiful gift to have somebody willing to clean your home or to clean your property and to keep it in a standard that is beautiful and aesthetic so you get to enjoy it. Like, why is that person not celebrated? And please, to those people watching, go celebrate your cleaners. Celebrate the people that do those mundane things that we actually hate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a laundry person. I don't like it. And I know we were speaking about this last night. You don't particularly like it either. And it's like, okay, well, if we can see that there's a need.
Oh, have we frozen? Oh, I've lost Flea. Um, yeah, but the need, she was up to the need, um, and celebration, you know, can we tap into the gifts of others? I know my beautiful mother, who worked so hard to gift my brother and I an education, and she's a cleaner. And like, what a gift that is. Always clean, a beautiful home. Whenever she comes here, originally I thought of it as a burden. And I'm like, oh, don't, and shame, a lot of shame as well. And I was like, I don't want my mom to come here because I know she's going to clean and she's going to judge me. And then I started to shift my perception, which was one of the cards that we pulled about communication that Flea was talking about and celebration. And I started to like honor that and celebrate and thank her for that in gratitude. And so I shifted my perception. And, when she would offer help, instead of me rejecting it out of pride, out of shame, I started to just be more gracious and take her up on things. And knowing that she's a little bit older now, I, am mindful of her health as well. So where possible, I accept the gifts. And it's this change in perception, right? And so it's interesting when we think about celebration of others and noticing how we can shift our perception. Like, people that know me is I'll always celebrate others and honor them and tag them in things. And that's just who I am. Like, I'll tag people in things that I've done because there is something in it that they've helped me achieve in that. And so I wouldn't be here today in this business without Flea. And that's why I tag her in things. This is why I celebrate her. And, when I think about the Beam Awards, being able to manifest that and have this beautiful gift of receiving an award there to achieve that was a lot of gifts, a lot of manifesting and exchange of energy and time. So it's interesting when people inquire about the story or inquire about, well, why? Why is she doing that? It's because I'm celebrating. And that's how I can do it, by acknowledging that effort. And our business together is Awæcnian Academy is both of us. And we both have different gifts. And, it's interesting as well that Flea was talking about relationships. She is exceptional at staying very grounded and non-judgmental and looking at both sides. And she's great at understanding the perceptions of others and questioning deeply to then allow that person to maybe shift their perception or understanding. And so it's interesting, like when we have chats about things, she'll frame it in a different way. They'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I didn't think about it that way. And then it'll get me thinking and contemplating and then, you know, reflecting deeper in how I can communicate better with others as well. So, just celebrating her and her gifts, which is amazing. And even with Awæcnian, when we create these spaces for guests to come on, for the summits, there's so much teamwork that happens where, as a connector in me, I love talking to people. So I am having lots of different chats with people, at different times of days because and times in the day because they're in different parts of the world. And then, Flea's really great at the tech side of things with using our platform. So she will do this and activate this and get things happening here, and I'll flick things this way. And we just tap into each other's gifts. And I think a lot of people that are looking in maybe don't realize, I suppose, the different pieces that come into play. And yeah, celebrating each other, acknowledging each other in the Facebook world, the Instagram world, is there's always something there to be said or interpreted. I think you just got to accept it, let it go, embrace it, celebrate it. And when I see other amazing men and women celebrating, supporting each other, I'm like, yeah, how can I be more like that? And that's my perception. And how I then choose to take those actions to notice others, tag them in things, invite them into the conversation, and I think if we were more invitational and we were able to celebrate and share the wins and share the amazing things, then I think the world would be such a better place. I'm hoping beautiful Flea will come back on with us. Sometimes technology likes to play out, and it's 3333 as I say that. So the joys of it all. But it's interesting, the cards that I pulled before, a lot of, taking action, authority, being fearless and strong. Flea talked about standing your ground as well, and being in our gifts, in our genius zones. And so it's interesting. I pulled a couple of other cards um, that hopefully will align with some of you. So this one, I can pull that up here. Take charge with authority. And then I also pulled the warrior card, and she mentioned about taking a stand. So being fearless and standing strong. And she definitely does that. I do that. And I do it out of authenticity, of being courageous, of being brave. Beautiful Flea says, I can hear, but the camera doesn't work. Oh, hopefully we can get her back on soon. But these pieces of like stepping into your authority, being fearless, standing strong, taking charge, These are part of the steps of being courageous, stepping into your leadership capacity, because each and every one of us has the capacity to be our best versions of ourselves. And in this process of becoming, oh my goodness, there's so many parts of ourselves that shed away and unveil, and the shadow parts that get to be seen and witnessed and loved. I had some beautiful conversations with people about this depth of the shadows, the darkness, the primal pieces of our humanity, and even talking to my beautiful husband about injustices in the world and speaking into these parts of ourselves that are infuriating, that anger us, that are not fair. Allowing that to be voiced, allowing grief to be felt, allowing anger to be felt in communication through our voice, through our expression, through the body. When we allow that to happen, to be felt, to be heard, to be witnessed as well. Oh, there's so much beautiful healing and alchemy in that, and it gets to be transmuted through its expression. And I think when we communicate, like Flea and I, we've got this really beautiful relationship now where we'll express the things, and we can express frustration, we can express joy and celebration, questioning, and it always comes from a place of love, and it always comes from a place of, you know, intentionally not wanting to hurt or harm. And so I know in my nervous system, being able to have difficult conversations, being able to hold space for that feeling in others, but also in myself, to notice what's arising in my heart, in the feelings, whether it could be shame or guilt or disagreement. Oh, I can hear Flea. But to allow that in our own nervous system in our body, I think comes with a lot of mastery of self and the nervous system. And when you have other people that have your back, who feel safe enough to express themselves and know that it's not going to be taken or turned or twisted and just be seen as it is in that moment, oh, that that is a skill and a gift. Imagine, thinking about your own partners, husbands, wives, children that have big outbursts or maybe anger, frustration. You still standing your ground, having your voice, but also balancing it with deep listening and being able to shift your perspective and perception to see what it is they're going through. And so I found with just taking that breath and the long exhale out allows my nervous system to regulate more quickly in those heightened moments. And these moments of chaos, when we have kids having tantrums or our partners having tantrums, and people having moments to regulate your nervous system and stay calm, I think is a real skill. And I know in our work that we do, coming back to the body to regulate is part of our awareness pillar, to be aware of the mind, the feelings, the felt senses, and even through times of chaos or unknowing, like I didn't even know if Flea was going to jump back on, regulating my nervous system, is something that, yeah, we practice, we embody, and we help others as well. How are you going, Flea?
Mm.
Yay, there's sound there. It's like, yay.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, I love tech. I really do. And my heart's desire just really wants for it to just work like it's meant to and like what I know it's capable of doing. But in my household, it just does not. It's I bought an $800 internet system because it was supposedly the satellite that doesn't pick up the system, and the modem we had before didn't work, and it could be the computer, but the computer worked fine at your house. So I'm like, okay, if it works fine in one house and it just doesn't work fine here, it's just here. So yeah, internet, whatever happened, I was still actually present. I could still see everything. I could still see me, but I just wasn't on the other screen. So it was kind of unusual. And I'm like, what do I do? Maybe what I can do is I can send myself a guest invite link in the background, trying to quickly jump on. So, you know, you're not panicking too much in that that state. It's like, oh, what's happening now? Do I just stop? Do I end? How do I end it? Because I'm not actually on that side of the system. So I thought I would send that link, and that was me hearing myself because it then went into repeat and I didn't know how to turn one screen sound off and then not the other. So
Ah,
that's what happened to me in that 10 minutes of blip. It was
how
kind of
was your nervous system?
rising the
You sound still very calm even through all those moments of, breathing through it. I was talking about just like sometimes in the chaos. How are you feeling?
honestly, I am calm because I have worked enough with you to understand that these things happen, and, no matter what, it's going to be the outcome it needs to be, whether there's one viewer, 100 viewers, like it really doesn't make a difference at the end of the day because the people that need to see it will. Having that message that clarified what I was saying while I was in the background meant that it was uninterrupted, and that was meant to happen for a reason. So, of course, the 222s, these connections, these impactful moments, and that's what it is. It's an impactful moment. So when you see the 222, this is an impact in an impactful moment for the individual in self. So that union within self, usually it's to do with a connection. So someone but it's that aha moment in your soul when you see the lovely 222. So that's what that did. It was that, okay, it just has to happen. And for us, we know that, you know, it's going to be fine. We're not going to lose $1 million because our production didn't go to air according to plan. Like that might cause a little bit more of a oops type feeling, but at the same time, like it's out of our control. And this is very much most of life that, like we started talking about those movements, those choices, and those decisions. These are the things that are in our control. We can change things about ourselves. We can take steps to improve our lives and to get past the habits and the things that aren't serving us. We can make the decisions to leave relationships or build relationships. Like this is a beautiful the beautiful conundrum that we live in is that there's always the counter opposite. So whatever choice you make, there is always going to be that opposite. What we can't control is other people's choices and decisions. And, I consider tech very much the same thing. It's its own entity. It's out there doing its thing in the ethers, all that energy flying about, uncontrolled or inappropriately controlled, and we have technical glitches. It's the same concept. Like if we look at our life and the simplicity of the things that we use, our biology, nature, like just looking to the things in your environment, you'll see how much of our teachings are just there present in the everyday thing. It's like, oh, I know that. Of course you know it. It's in your biology. When we talk about our cars needing services and putting premium fuels and things like that, like we do that to maintain the life of the car, yet we're unwilling to do that for our own bodies, for our own vessels. Like how many of us, like we talk, spirituality and embodying everything, but, to a degree, we all succumb to the weaknesses of the 3D and the societal expectations. But it's in that understanding it is still our choice. Like, yes, I can eat rubbish and I will feel bad. That is the consequence of my choice. I still made that choice. And when your nervous system is aware of that, it's like, okay, well, why did I make that choice? There's plenty of reasons, and we can justify them, or we can shame ourselves into thinking that we shouldn't have done it. And it's like, okay, I just really had a lack of energy. I didn't think about food. I didn't allocate enough time to my self-care and to actually think about what my body wants. I didn't even take the time to listen to what my body wanted. So therefore I ate a chocolate bar. Yes, I could shame myself. That's that movement and that choice. And I could then guilt myself into thinking I'm a horrible person and probably eat 5 more chocolate bars because, that's what we do. It's like, oh, well, I've already ruined myself. I might as well have more, right? It's the same concept. It's like putting bad fuel into your car. If it starts coughing and spluttering, it's like, oh, yeah, I put in the bad fuel. We made the choice. Other things may influence it, yeah. So, maybe it was a bad petrol station and it was just poor quality from the get-go. We can't control that. We made the choice to stop there, so there's our regulation right there. It's like, well, we could have drove a little bit further and gotten more premium fuel at somewhere trusted and known within our body. The first point of
Mm.
call as a human being born into this world is understanding your innate body language, like what we communicate with. As a baby, we cry and we crave the things that we need, and we're given them intuitively by the mother. Mother doesn't know. It's like, okay, I feel that my baby is crying for this. There is no language there, but we understand it. We know that that baby needs nurturing, needs nourishment, needs comfort. So it's the 3 basics. Environment. So do they just need their environment changed? Their biology, so the physical, that do they need food? Are they wet? Are they uncomfortable? Can you imagine not being able to roll over yourself? Like, how uncomfortable would you get as an adult not being able to turn? That's a baby. It's telling you straight away in the only language it's got, intuitive cries. And humanity right now is crying.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're just crying for that. Okay, can somebody hear me? Can somebody feel where I'm coming from?
Mm.
That's the depth of teaching that we are capable of, is that full bodied understanding of where we belong, knowing within us, because we do know every single time, some synchronous event comes along where somebody teaches us something or tells us something. It's like, I did already know that. I just needed somebody else to clarify it for me. And that's fine. Like, that seeking outside of ourselves is fine, because it's like, okay, the way you said it makes sense to me. Now I can clarify my understanding and my meaning of me. And that's so powerful to have,
Mm.
that depth of understanding of self. That's why I'm regulated. It's like, okay, well, I know how to survive in any circumstance, in any situation. Bless you. So, that ability to be able to do that means that I can adapt quite quickly. I
Mm.
can change the way I behave, the way that I interact with people. Like, they're my choices. I get to make them. And in a lot of spiritual work, this is one of the things we were talking about last night, is this idea that you have to look a certain way to be healed. It's like, but what if your understanding, your understanding of your traumas is actually your superpower? It's like, I can go back into mine quite easily. Like, I can travel back to my 8-year-old self and go, what did it feel like in that moment? And I can feel the sensations. I can recall everything, like, to that depth and to that extreme. And a lot of people would say, oh, that's traumatic, that's problematic, you haven't given up, you're living in it. But it's like, I don't go back to live in it. I go back to understand it. Because to understand the choices and the decisions is understanding the blessings and the lessons that come. So it's like, I can regulate my nervous system because I know, okay, well, when this is coming up for me now in a relationship or something like that, because all of our past problems show up in other ways. So, this past circumstance, it shows up in an adult way. I get to then regulate that because I can understand what it felt like back then, what caused that feeling, what caused that trigger, and I can identify in the present what that error is. That depth of understanding is that um, regulation that you were talking about. And it's a term that just gets thrown about. It's like, well, do you really know your system to that depth and that level? It doesn't mean that you're not healed if you can recall and you can go back into it. It actually means you have a heightened awareness of it. And that ability skill set is something that you can perceive to be coming as a protective model, as an intuitive guidance. And that's the shaming of the ego. The ego is here to protect us. It's our little child saying, "Hang on a sec, remember that? Hang on a sec, remember that." Why do we need to remember that? Why is that fear present? Why is that preventing us from moving forward? What are the similarities, and how can we move forward with that?
Mm.
That's in our choices and in our decisions. And some of the worst decisions have the best outcomes, because it's like, oh, I now know why I made that decision. I now know why I chose to, you know, follow. I did the shoplifting thing as a teenager because a friend of mine was so very, she was an older girl and she was very influential, and I wanted to be cool like her because she wore all the cool stuff. She stole all the cool stuff. So, in that moment of peer pressure, making that decision to go, I'm just going to put these bracelets on and do what she did.
We've lost Flea again. I think in that recollection of also being able to go back and being the earth angels that we are now, that we can notice that inner child, that inner teen, and in our mind's eye, in understanding that depth of feeling, what we were going through and experiencing emotionally, there are different tools that we can use to alchemize that in that moment. And if we think about past, present, future, it's all in this eternal now. And that shoplifting story reminded me of a lady I was working with, and we were doing some inner child work. And when we were talking about her story, and she, stole a lot of things too, and we stemmed back, I was just sharing what your story reminded me of, and being able to stem back into like, well, why did she steal those clothes or go shoplifting? Because she went to juvie. And we went back further. She's like, I remember stealing the cookies out of the cookie jar because I wanted to show my parents that I can do things. And she was a toddler at
Mm,
that time. And then we stemmed back even further in the felt experience. And what we were able to do through visualization is herself now as the angel that she is, the guardian or whatever it is, with the experience of being the adult. We were able to go back to her 1-year-old self through visualization, through the feelings and noticing what she was feeling. And she wanted her family to see her walk. And she was
mm,
getting up to walk, and she's like, I feel really proud of myself. I want them to see me. They're not seeing me. And by her being able to recollect the feelings and memories, she's like, they're watching the TV. They're watching something else and not me. And I'm really proud of myself, and they can't see that. And we stemmed back to that pivotal moment. And whether or not people remember an actual event, it doesn't matter. If you can come back to the emotion, the feeling, or
mm,
the type of experience, you can alchemize that now. And you can come back to that little baby, that child, that 8-year-old self, the 15-year-old self now, and tap back in with yourself and wrap your wings around you as that little girl or that little boy, and hold them and say, I see you. I see you. And we have the power to do that for ourselves. And so I was just adding on to what Flea was saying, is like, there's a gift in recollecting and remembering these moments of that feeling, but we're not reliving it in that way. We can alchemize it and shift it so that little girl, that toddler, that teenager gets to be seen, felt, and heard by the most important person, which is you. And so, like in that example, we were just crying together because she picked her little self up and hugged her and said, I'm so proud of you. I can see you walking. And she was talking to herself in the way that a 1-year-old wanted to be seen and felt and heard and celebrated. She was hugging herself and we were crying together. And then in that moment, also that teenager got to be held and
Mm.
forgiven and seen and felt and hugged and held. Because all we ever want, like you said, it comes back to love. Like you said at the beginning, we just want to be loved. And that relationship with self that Flea was
Mm.
talking about earlier, like we have the power to do that for ourselves and cultivate that relationship, because then the other relationships we get to have, we see the gifts in that. And I was just saying when you were offline, I'm not sure if you heard, like what a gift you have in seeing these aspects of relationship with non-judgment, to question and go, well, maybe let's just shift your perception again. What if you saw it from this lens?
Mm.
Because I can see it from this way. And if we do that for ourselves, it doesn't have to be hard. We can
Mm.
just go back and give that little girl, that little boy, or that teenager of ourselves the things they need. And it doesn't even have to have words. You could just look at yourself within your own essence and your own memory, hug them, hold them, and know that it's okay, that they are safe within you. They are loved, they are seen, they are felt, they are heard, and that safety, my goodness, coming back to the heart, coming back to knowing that we are source, that we are God, goddess, or universe, whatever it is you want to call God's energy, that we are so deeply loved. And we get to
Mm.
remind ourselves of that. So yeah, I'm glad you're back joining us.
Mm. Yes. Wasn't meant to happen there either. That's okay. That's those messages, but that perception is such a beautiful tool to just start doing, like, by yourself, and you can do it simply just by looking at yourself in the mirror. It's like, how easily can you readjust your eyes to, to alter the image? Like, we see it so much in photography, and all the filters are doing it for us. It's like, okay, well, if we're willing to change the way we look using a tool and a device, how much of that are we actually doing just with our own eyes? Like, how
Mm,
much do you actually look at yourself? How well do you know yourself to be able to see what other
mm,
people see? Like, that's a depth and a level of understanding that once you sit there like that beautiful child that wasn't held, like, they were watching TV, they didn't see me. From the flip side of that, looking at that parent, it's like, that exhausted day of, just wanting to sit down and have a few moments to yourself that, and we know as parents, those moments where it's like, I know I should be doing this with my child, but I'm just too busy or I'm too tired, or, you know, we're human too and they need that time. So that understanding of, okay, yeah, okay, you didn't get what you needed then, you can still celebrate yourself, and that's beautiful, and that's going to heal on another level. But also being able to see at that level for your younger self, and then to flip that to the opposite perspective, to see it through a parent's lens or something in a different time, in a different, like, you have to consider their environment, their life, like the whole extent of what it would have been like to be them in that particular environment and community. Understand their life at that level, and you'll see the habits and behaviors that you make as an adult. You'll see where you've repeated that exact same pattern. It's like, oh, my mum didn't do this. Oh yeah, but I didn't do that for my kids either. And these are the things I get to see now. It's like, oh, okay, well, how can I be more conscious in the way I communicate with my kids? How can I actually take the time to stop and listen to their perspective, to actually see the multitude of their perspective as well? So, like, when your kids or your partners are coming to you, like, how much of what they're saying is actually influenced by their environment. Remembering that, like with the car, we can't really do anything outside ourselves, but we can make ourselves aware of it. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, yeah, we did that this time. Next time, how about we do something else?
yeah,
It's just a beautiful bonding tool that you get to experience not only with yourself but with others.
Mm,
Like, I love when we challenge each other to, like, "Oh, what about this?" And it's like, "Oh, okay." I love that. I know I don't have all of the answers. I'm still just on this journey too, like everyone else, coming along to the new information. But what I do have and what I do know is that I have a voice. And, what makes sense to me will make sense to another. And whether it's the first little baby step on their journey or, the last gigantic leap, that's not for me to decide. That's their journey. But what I do know is that sharing this wisdom as it comes about, like knowing that, sitting in that connector relationship and um, that energy of being able to bring people together, like that's a magical gift. And that only comes because you can actually see the perception and the potential of the future possibilities with them. If you're
mm,
not looking through that lens, then that gets missed. And for
yeah.
me, when I'm looking at it from that relationship perspective, it's like, well, I want to understand me to a deeper level so that I'm not inviting negative people into my life. Like I know I can control that now. When I was younger and I was less informed, I didn't understand I needed to protect myself against people. But
Mm,
that comes about with this beautiful gift of understanding that perspective. It's like, okay, I can see what these people are here to do. And the minute you can see what people are here to do, even if they're here to be in that negative energy, well, they have to be. We have to have negativity to be able to receive the positive. It's like a
mm,
battery, it has both ends. We don't
yeah.
shame the negative end because it's drawing in the energy. And the positive is sending it out. We just know that the battery works in a cycle and that it has to go in one way and out the other.
Mm,
We're very much the same, and it's so powerful.
yeah.
I could talk about
Mm.
this sort of stuff for hours.
Oh, so could I. But we are running at the hour mark now. But it's that piece about awareness and perception taking, which is our first pillar. We've got some amazing women that have joined our first batch of course information. And we really dive deep into these awareness parts of ourselves, coming back to the body, understanding the mind, understanding what energy is, and really earthing, and grounding into this reality so that we can bring in the higher frequency, attract, like the magnets we are, the people that are aligned to us, that we can understand ourselves. And this is why we love working with human design. We're also excited to be working with the beautiful Dominique and diving into soul maps with human design and like tree of life gridding, which I'm like, yes, there are so many tools and strategies
The aura reading.
that, oh yeah, and there are so many ways of
Mhm.
understanding ourselves. I also love diving into epigenetics. I've only done surface level, but it was enough for me to go. That's all I need to know at this stage because it correlates with this tool and this tool that I dive deeper into. And it's like, when you build your awareness and things that resonate and land will stick. And then you start to understand yourself and master those parts of yourself, right? And so we've got a beautiful 3 month
Yeah.
course that is available in our first pillar with the Awæcnian Academy. So if you've stuck with us this long because you love listening into our insights and wisdom, then my goodness, you're our tribe. You're our peoples. And come and find out what it's about. We have a complimentary call. And if you want to dive in deeper into anchoring more into your body, into strengthening your understanding of self, your awareness of all the pieces, then come and have a chat with us. And this is, I suppose, why we also love creating the summits that we have because it builds that awareness and we get to talk to other amazing people that are aware and embodied. We have a summit coming up in August, don't we, Flea?
Oh yes, the beautiful turnkey transformation event. So this is the woo woo unleashed. This is the beauty of the quantum and all elements which are our higher pillars. And I love that you said, we're just bringing the pieces together and making it stick. And it's like you were inside my mind because I was seeing this web of all of the little pieces, all of the little threads. Yes, I know enough epigenetics to connect this thread here or to connect this part of the web here. And when we see it as a web, like this is the quantum realm, this is the who are we at the core level, is this energetic vibration that is a mass in this web. Like we have our energetic tendrils just following along, and like the spider, just piecing each little piece together along this journey. But the journey is the creation. The creation is the web at the end of the day. And our 5 pillars, so there are 5 pillars to Awæcnian, and the first is that awareness course. And it all stems with the how do we connect with the energy we already know, the wisdom we already know. We tap into earth, and we tap into the ancient traditions and the wisdoms. We use quantum, science and grids and all types of elements to explain these concepts, and they are all interrelated. So, for some people that have already been on their journey, they may go, oh, awareness, like I'm already there, I know it. But the level at which we go into these things is that always that ever-present child going, why? But why? We're always seeking that why, and that why is the next little thread on our beautiful web.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's exciting. And come and join us if you're listening in our beautiful curriculum. And also if you want to be a speaker or presenter. We're going to dive deep into all of these things and the quantum and remembrance pieces and how we get to just elevate each other. And if you're listening in, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to come and listen to the amazing people. Just make a comment with your favorite emoji, like listening. You could write listening or I'm there. Let us know if you've made it this far to the end. We'd love to hear from you. Make a comment so we know that we're engaging with you and we're hitting the mark, because we feel it's good. We create what we want to see, but it's always affirming to know that okay, people are resonating with this as well. So let us know. Be brave. Make a comment. Put an emoji, and celebrate us as well. Because if we see that, we're like, yay! Okay, cool. It's beautiful.
We're all connected.
So that's it. We look
Mm.
forward to seeing you next week. We have another beautiful guest joining us. And yeah, I'm excited to dive deep and share more exciting projects with you all soon. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.